What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. This is Timeless Season 2, Episode 1, The War to End All Wars. So, yes, Timeless is back, and I'm very happy about that. For those of you who don't know, it was canceled for a little while. There was a lot of support for it, though, from what I can tell on like social media and stuff. I wasn't really sure how the views and all of that stuff. I don't really know how it was doing on that side of things because I don't really pay attention to that. But as far as the first season is concerned, like the writing, the story, the directing, the acting, the camera work, the action, all of that stuff was really good in my opinion. It was a really solid first season. It wasn't perfect. There were some things that did sort of feel like it was on repeat from other time travel shows, and there were a few things that were pretty predictable. But overall, it was a very good first season. It had a good concept. You've got this trio, don't think they get along, and it takes them a little bit before they start working together as more of a unit, which makes sense. But they're trying to stop this guy, Garcia Flynn, who's going back in time and trying to rewrite history. So you think he's a bad guy. About halfway through the season, you find out that apparently he's trying to stop this other evil organization from being created by going back in time to stop that. And so it's kind of, you don't really know if he's the true bad guy or if he's just one evil trying to stop another larger evil, because you could tell he wasn't really a good guy the way he was handling things. But so by the end of the season, they realize that Rittenhouse, the organization he's trying to stop, is a real thing, and they are dangerous. And so they're trying to stop Rittenhouse as well, but also trying to stop him from destroying history. But the season ends with them stopping Garcia Flynn. He gets taken into custody, and Lucy finds out that her mother, she already knew her father was Rittenhouse. She met a guy, and he was Rittenhouse, and then she realized about halfway through that he was her father. And so then she finds out at the end of the season that her mother is apparently a very big name in Rittenhouse. And so now that's pretty much where we pick up. We start off with this guy in the battlefield, and he's got a smartphone on him. And as soon as I saw that, I'm like, okay, so clearly we're doing something a little bit different here, because we already see this guy has a smartphone on him. Is this a guy that Rittenhouse has visited and gave him a smartphone, or is this a Rittenhouse agent? What's going on here? Well, we see apparently things are a little bit down the line from right where we left off at the end of last season. I think they said there's about 6 weeks have passed since the end of last season. Basically, the Mason Industries explodes. So everybody thinks that the people working there are dead. Rufus and Wyatt, they managed to get the time ship out. What's her name? Okay, I'm going to have to go through names again because I mainly remember... Okay, Gia and Denise and Connor Mason, they all managed to come along as well and get the time ship out. So they've been working on it, trying to get it running again, while Lucy has been taken in by her mother to start working for Rittenhouse. And it's kind of one of those things where they don't really trust her, but they're willing to give her a chance to prove herself because her mother is a big name in Rittenhouse. And so they go on this mission to go get a guy from, I think it was World War II? I think it was World War II. I may be wrong about that. I'm pretty sure that was the one that was called the War to End All Wars. So they go to the front lines and go get this soldier who's been badly injured. Apparently, they want to save his life and bring him back to the present for whatever reason. And so that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to save his life. They go get Madame Curie and have her bring her little portable X-ray, which is something that she made back then, which is really, really cool. We meet... I think this woman was introduced last season. I can't remember her name now. But I'm pretty sure it was the agent that they went to go find that they thought would help them because Garcia Flynn was trying to find her, but it turns out she was a Rittenhouse agent as well. And so I think that's who that was working with them. But she's obviously very ruthless. She's shown that she's very ruthless in this episode. And she's trying to convince herself that Lucy is helping them. So she has Lucy kill an innocent soldier, which of course affects her. But she's the one that, you go on this mission. Madame Curie, one of the great medical minds back in history, sees the time ship, and her first thought is, I need to kill her. She's one of those people. She doesn't really care about history, about changing things. She's just like, you know what? She saw the time ship. One of the rules is if anybody interacts with us, if they find out anything, they shouldn't kill them. That's all she does. So I assume she'll probably be kind of the one antagonist we see the most, if I had to guess, just because it seems like she's the one that goes on a lot of these time ship missions. So, but we see Rufus and Wyatt. Both of them are upset about being trapped in the bunker. Wyatt wants to go look for Lucy because he still thinks she's alive and probably held captive by Rittenhouse, and he wants to go save her. Rufus is working on the time ship, trying to get it working again, and Agent Christopher is just like, you guys can't leave. You have to stay here. So they've been doing that for a while. Connor Mason is down on himself because of what happened. He feels like he is completely useless, and so that's kind of, I think that's going to be his arc for this season, probably, is regaining that confidence, regaining his smarts back, because we do need that scientist mind from him again. Because Rufus, while he is very smart, he can't do it all on his own. He needs somebody to bounce ideas off of. And Gia, she's having those headaches. We saw at the end of last season, she had the ability to see, I think, a different history where, like, she's looking out the window and the Golden Gate Bridge is all of a sudden destroyed. So I still don't know what her story is. I assume we'll get a bit more of it. I don't know if they're going to just change it to where it's just headaches now, or she's still seeing alternate histories, I suppose. But whatever the case, we see that that's pretty much the team for this season is Wyatt, Rufus, and Lucy, obviously, in the time ship, and then Gia, Connor Mason, and Agent Christopher kind of manning the panel or the control board or whatever you want to call it. So Wyatt Rufus managed to get the time ship up. I can't remember who it was that figured out where the mothership went. So, but they do manage to find out where they are. They jump back and try to find out what they're doing. Okay, how are they? What are they trying to do? What are they trying to accomplish? So Lucy manages to break away from her mother whenever they go get Madame Curie. She meets Wyatt and Rufus on the field, finds out they're still alive, and it is a very nice scene between them. The one thing that I will say is they're still really pushing hard this Wyatt and Lucy thing. It's one of those things where I do see it. I do see the chemistry there, but at the same time, I feel like it's one of those, they argued so much at the beginning of last season. Of course they're going to hook up and get together because they argued a lot, and that's all it takes to form a relationship. It's just two people arguing, and they haven't argued as much. Obviously, now they actually do like each other, but I just hate it whenever TV shows do that. Whenever they do that whole, they argue so much at the beginning. Clearly, guys, they're going to like each other at the end. It's just so cliche. But that was more last season. This is this season. Based on so far this season, it's okay. It's not so heavy-handed. There are a couple conversations between Wyatt and Rufus. Rufus at one point just calls him out. You love Lucy, man. I can see it. It's obvious. So, hopefully it doesn't become too much. It doesn't drag down the show and take away from all of the time travel stuff, because that is the heart of the show. But if they want to throw in a relationship there, it's not too big a deal. It's just something that I hope doesn't take up so much time that it distracts from everything else. So they're trying to figure out what they're going to do. Lucy has this plan to blow up the mothership and kill the soldier, so that way Rittenhouse doesn't get what they want and they don't have the mothership anymore. Wyatt and Rufus, of course, are like, no, we can't do that. And then they end up finding the Rittenhouse agent that's in the field. They get attacked by him and a couple other guys, manage to take him down, and then find this manifesto on him. So they start to realize that something else is going on here. That's when they get back to the cabin. Lucy is just about to kill the soldier when her mother walks in and realizes she can't be trusted, so she takes her back to the jump ship, or the mothership, with the other Rittenhouse agent whose name still escapes me. I'm going to start looking it up while I'm talking to you. But they're also bringing the soldier with them, and they're about to get on. Madame Curie shows up, and that's whenever, what's-her-face? Emma, I think. Yes, I believe it's Emma. That's whenever she pulls the gun and is about to kill her. Lucy jumps in front of her, and they have a little bit of a standoff. You can see that Emma clearly just wants to kill Lucy. She found the grenade in her purse, so she knows she was about to blow up the mothership. And that's whenever Rufus and Wyatt show up just in the nick of time. Wyatt threatens to kill the soldier if they don't give up Lucy, so they do a swap, and then they leave, and that's pretty much how this episode ends. So with all that being said, there are still a few things. It's pretty much a straightforward first episode. Getting Lucy back on the team, getting them ready to take on Rittenhouse again. They're not quite full strength because they're doing this out of some random building, but it's still a good build up to this season. Trying to get the team back together so we can have the new season. However, there are a few things at the end that really they throw in. It is kind of like this last minute, like this, trying to throw all this information in to preface the first season, but it's a lot of good information that gets me excited. So first of all, like I said, they find this manifesto on the guy that was back in time, the Rittenhouse agent, and finding out that apparently they have this plan, changing time, changing history to suit them. And they also find out that apparently they've made a jump several times in the past, and that's whenever it hits them. They've placed Rittenhouse agents all throughout history. That's an interesting concept. Just having this evil group that you're up against, they've already placed agents throughout history. And so now anywhere you go, any time period you travel to, there's a chance that there's a Rittenhouse agent waiting for you. That's pretty interesting. And I also wonder if maybe they're going to make some historical figures that we know, they're going to make them Rittenhouse agents. Just because that would be pretty interesting. In our life, we all know, I don't know, I'm trying to think of some famous person. I'll go with Elvis Presley just because he was on Legends of Tomorrow recently. Elvis Presley, we all know him. He created rock and roll. He's all that. What if, in this show now, Elvis Presley was actually a Rittenhouse agent that they brought back in time, and now he is, he's the one that created rock and roll and all that stuff. Just little things like that they could do would be very, very interesting. And so I'm curious to see if they're going to do all of that. We also hear from Emma that apparently she's gone back in time several times and changed history enough to where it's nearly impossible now for Lucy's sister to be born. So obviously that was a big thing for her in season 1. I don't know if we're going to continue on that because I assume that would be something that we might bring up in this or at the end of last season. That might be how the season ends, is her getting her sister back. But of course they didn't end off on that. So now I'm wondering if maybe that's going to be kind of the big thing for this show is, obviously they're taking on Rittenhouse right now, but maybe that'll be kind of the end game for Lucy, is trying to get her sister back by the end of the show. So it just depends on how long the show goes on, if it's going to continue on for several seasons or just a few. If it's only like 5 or 6, there's a chance where Rittenhouse is your main bad guys for the first couple seasons, and then you add in a new problem to solve. Maybe time has been changed so much that there's some sort of temporal rift that you have to try to control, and it's letting out some sort of people that can control time or something. I don't know. You can go really, really off the rails in season 4 or 5, and then by season 6, if that wants to be your last season, it can be all about Lucy trying to change time to get her sister back. It just depends on what they want to do with their show. So, but I'll be interested to see what they're going to do with that. And then the final thing, of course, this manifesto that they found about changing history and all of that. They find out that the soldier that they saved and brought to the present, that is the guy that wrote this manifesto. And Lucy's mom is standing over him when he wakes up. And he's like, "Who are you?" "I'm your granddaughter." So this is actually Lucy's great-grandfather that wrote this manifesto and talked about traveling through time, changing history, and making it for Rittenhouse. And now they saved him, so I don't quite know what the plan is with him. I guess he already died in history, so it's not like taking him out of history does anything different. But I guess maybe they're bringing him in because he has a very intelligent mind, but it was back in history, so he wasn't able to use it as effectively as he could in present day. Whatever the case, though, several moving pieces and a lot of very interesting things. And of course it ends with them going to talk to Garcia Flynn at the end of the episode. Agent Christopher's like, things have changed. We need your help. And he's like, "I won't talk to you. I'll only talk to Lucy." So, well, he didn't say I'll only talk to Lucy, but I think we know. Or no, he did. He did. Yeah. I'm trying to remember his story now. It's been a while since the first season, so I can't remember how he was related to Lucy. I know that he and Lucy worked together at some point, but I can't remember what their relationship was. So anyway, with all that being said, that's the end of the first episode, so I'll see you guys in the next one in a few moments. And now for episode 2, the Darlington 500. So this one took some more elements that I wanted to see and utilized them to perfection, in my opinion. First of all, I will say that it wasn't quite what I was asking for. The main thing I'm talking about is having somebody in history who is famous turn out to be a Rittenhouse agent. They do kind of do that, but not with somebody we know. It's somebody that Wyatt is like a huge fan of. Sorry, this is why you don't drink coffee and then do a review. But it was somebody that Wyatt is a huge fan of. Racing guy who apparently won all these races. And I'm sure anybody who watches this and is also a racing fan, it's like, who is Ryan Millerson? I've never heard of him. What, is this some new guy they're talking? Like, who is this? So they probably knew right away that this guy was probably fake and a Rittenhouse agent. But for me, of course, I don't know anything about racing. So he's talking about him, oh, I'm his biggest fan and all this stuff. And I'm like, why would Rittenhouse want him dead? And then all of a sudden he pulls out a gun. And I'm just like, oh, okay, so he's actually a Rittenhouse agent. And I had to look it up. It's like, was he a real person? He wasn't. But this is the type of stuff that we can expect to see. The first Rittenhouse agent turned out to be a general in the World War. That's pretty big person in the war. So the fact that he went in there, came back from time, and managed to grow in the ranks that much to where he was a general is huge. And now this other guy who became this racing giant, that Wyatt adored growing up, that's kind of showing how far Rittenhouse have put themselves into history, that the team wasn't even aware. Wyatt had all these posters when he was a kid, or at least he remembers that he does because they changed history. And he doesn't remember it. So I love the concept of that, the fact that, these people that are now famous in this history could actually end up being Rittenhouse agents. And so it's like, oh my gosh, I'm a huge fan. I grew up watching their movies, or I grew up listening to their music. Boom, Rittenhouse agent. And their entire world comes crumbling down. Anyway, so that was really, really fun. We're seeing Gia's powers, whatever they are, as well, starting to show a bit more that she can see something. I still don't know what. We saw that one scene where she saw the Golden Gate Bridge destroyed. Now she's seeing a scene where Rufus's arm is all burned up, and then they go on the mission and he gets his arm burned by the car radiator or battery or whatever, just like she saw in her vision. So I'm not sure what she has the ability to do yet, but they're still showing that it is some sort of ability. She is able to see changes in history somehow. Maybe possible changes in history or future changes in history. I'm still not entirely sure. But if that's the case, then there might be a moment where the Golden Gate Bridge gets destroyed in one of these future missions. So anyway, those two things were a lot of fun. Aside from that, it was a good episode. It was enjoyable. Nothing like that where I'm like, all my wishes are coming true. But overall, it was still very, very enjoyable. You've got them going back in time, trying to stop Rittenhouse from killing this guy. Then you find out that apparently he plans to set a bomb that blows up all of the car maker people, which would then, I guess, crumble the car industry. Don't know why, but apparently they're trying to remake history in their image. We see that, Emma is still very much the one that they're going up against. She pretty much goes to this guy, this Ryan Millerson, and tells him, look, you got to remember the plan, because he apparently got a little too attached to the fake life that he made for himself. He went and found a girl, then they had a kid, and Emma's like, are you compromised? Is this taking time away from you? And you can see how much that frustrates her. The thought that an agent in the field would lose focus from the main mission. That frustrates her so much because she is always focused on the mission. So you can tell she's very much just a loyal soldier that's willing to do whatever it takes to complete the mission. And anybody that gets in her way is now an object to be moved out of her way. So, I don't know. She is becoming a very good antagonist for the season so far. We also see Lucy's mom is talking to Lucy's great-grandfather and trying to figure out, I guess, trying to get him to formulate a plan for them to go off of. Trying to use his mind to create a new plan for Rittenhouse. And so he's just in there doing his own thing. Everybody thinks he's just goofing off, doing whatever. And all of a sudden they walk in, and this entire wall has been painted with something. Still not entirely sure what. She calls it a map, but he says, no, it's not a map. It's too simple a term. This is a way for us to remake the stone that is the human race into something like Michelangelo's David. So clearly he sees the human race as something that is crude and unformed and something that needs to be remade. And so now they're going to try to remake it in their image, which it's a good premise for a villain. Any villain that looks at it that way, that sees that the human race is flawed and needs to be changed, I don't know. I think that's a very interesting concept for a villain to have. Most of the time it's just, oh, we need to take over the world because I want to rule the world. No, this guy clearly has some sort of vision in mind. Now, it's probably crazy, sure, but it makes him for an interesting villain. It makes for a complex villain, more than just, I want to rule the world because I want power. So I'm really enjoying where they're taking it so far. We also see kind of a side story. Connor Mason tries to go out and give a speech, and then Agent Christopher sends in some agents to sort of take him out of the spotlight. So there's kind of a little bit of friction there. Like, he wants to get back out in the public eye because he wants to be recognized again, whereas she is trying to say, no, you can't get back out there because Rittenhouse wants you dead. And Rittenhouse doesn't need to know that you're still alive and that we're still alive and doing our thing. And, if you end up getting tracked by a Rittenhouse agent, now all of a sudden they could track you back to our base and try to kill us again. So you can kind of see both sides of it. He used to be very famous, very rich, and now he has nothing. So yeah, it kind of makes sense that he wants to get back out into the public eye. She, on the other hand, sees the danger of getting back out there when Rittenhouse is still on the lookout for all of them. So it's kind of like both sides you can't understand. I do tend to side more with Agent Christopher, though, just because I do see the danger of what Rittenhouse can bring if you allow yourself to be put back into their spotlight. So, but overall, very good episode. Continues more of what I want to see. There was a little bit more of the Lucy Wyatt stuff. Didn't get too heavy-handed still. They're still kind of keeping it in these little spurts, these little moments. So I'm still enjoying that. They do have some moments here and there, just because you are going back to the 50s, which means racial prejudice is a thing. It's been something in the first season that they had a few episodes about that were very well handled, in my opinion, because there have been other shows when they're talking about the racial prejudice where it does get very heavy-handed and just smacks you over the head with it time and time again. This show does a very good job of doing it in a subtle way, and so you do get to see a little bit of the racial prejudice back then and seeing kind of somebody rising above it. They talk about at the end, they'd already mentioned how he won a race, but they didn't want to give him the trophy because he was black. And so they're talking to him at the end, and he's just like, Rufus asked him, do you really think they're going to give a trophy to a black man? He's like, no, of course not. What do you think, I'm thick? He said, I just want to do it because I want to be the best, and that's all there is to it. He said, it doesn't matter if they don't want to give me a trophy, well, then screw them. Who cares? So, I don't know. I really, really like that. I like the fact that they had this character who didn't want to make it all about the racial stuff. He just wanted to do what he loved. And if people wanted to hate on him because of the color of his skin, well, screw them. Who cares? And I don't know. That lesson isn't really taught anymore, I hate telemarketers. Anyway, as I was saying, that type of lesson is not really taught anymore. The screw the haters, don't care what they say. I mean, you look at the way our society is now, it's so full of hate, just, oh, you're on the other side, I hate you for that, I'm going to bash you and what you think and, all your opinions, I think you're wrong, and here I'm right, let me tell you why I'm right. Too many times that happens. Not enough people just say, you know what, who cares what they think? I believe what I believe, who cares what they think? I am who I am, who cares what they think? That doesn't happen anymore. Now it's all about, oh no, I am who I am, and you need to accept me for that. You need to believe me. Who cares? And that's, I don't know, it was just such a refreshing, it was such a refreshing character, because they would, most TV shows nowadays would take this character and turn him into like a, oh, look at that, he is standing up for what he believes in, who cares the color of his skin, he is going to stand up for black people everywhere, and oh, power to him. No, he's just like, I am who I am, I love what I love to do. If they hate me because of the color of my skin, well, screw them, who cares. It was nice. It was really, really nice. There was some funny stuff going on where Rufus kind of gives him a, hey, what's up? He's like, why are you shaking your head at me for? What was that? And after he leaves, he's like, it's what we do. It's what black people do. I guess it hasn't been invented yet. I don't know. It was kind of funny to think that something that he does in our present day, between, you know, somebody that's also black, he does it with him back in the 50s, and he has no idea what he's doing. It's like, what are you shaking your head at me for? I don't know. It was pretty funny, and some of the scenes between Wyatt and Lucy also can be pretty funny when it's, you know, it can be a little awkward at times. This is the second episode in a row where they've gone to kiss and then somebody has interrupted them. You kind of just feel like they're doing this as a gag. Like, it's probably going to happen again in episode 3 if I had to guess. So maybe they're turning this into kind of a running joke, like, you know, they're hooking up, but the show is just like, they almost did it, but then they got interrupted. Oh, it almost happened again, but then they got interrupted. If that's what they're doing, then it's hysterical. If they're just doing that twice in a row because they want to stretch it out, then it's pretty stupid. So it just all depends on what they're trying to do with this. But anyway, that's it for this episode. So on to the third and last of these episodes before I'm caught up. See you guys there. And finally, episode 3, Hollywoodland. So this one continues on the journey of them trying to stop Rittenhouse. I feel like this is probably going to be most of the episodes this season, just them tracking down one of the Rittenhouse agents that have been put into time and finding out what their job is. This one was a little bit more, I thought we'd follow this family a little bit more personally, just because we see at the beginning of this episode, father's talking to his son, sends him back in time. It's like, you got a mission to do it for the company. And so he goes back, apparently becomes, I guess, a director of some sort, I think. Can't remember exactly what his job was in Hollywood, but becomes a very famous Hollywood person. And so his dad steps back in and says, hey, it's time. You've got a job to do. Let's do it. Apparently his job was to steal Citizen Kane and then sell it to this paper who's going to put these columns in for him, whatever they wanted to write. And according to Lucy, this newspaper was very influential back in the day. So apparently these articles that they were going to publish, these columns, I guess were going to sort of shape some people's opinions and I guess help Rittenhouse down the line. But whatever the case, obviously the team manages to stop him. The son ends up getting killed later on the episode. He has a little shootout with Wyatt, which of course Wyatt eventually does win. But yeah, that's pretty much the majority of this episode. But there are some side stories going on. First of all, start with Gia. She ends up getting checked out by a doctor because obviously the headaches are continuing. These little spells that she's having are continuing. And so the doctor checks her out. According to Connor Mason, he tells Agent Christopher that apparently there were 2 other pilots that were exhibiting the same symptoms. And one is in a mental hospital for schizophrenia. The other one died from some sort of brain injury. Well, the doctor checks Gia out. Nothing wrong with her brain. And apparently she had a heart murmur that she's had for pretty much her entire life. And that heart murmur is gone now. So for some reason, she's actually healthier than she was before she got whatever she has. So I'm not really sure what to think of that, because it seems like whatever she was going through actually has been affecting her, but it's actually more, it's like helping her in some cases, but she's still having these headaches and these visions, whatever they are. So I don't really know what is going on with her, and I assume we'll probably get more explanation down the line. But for right now, it's still a huge mystery what's wrong with Gia. The other thing in this episode, we see they're talking to Garcia Flynn. He wants to get out of prison if they want his help. And so he does give them information. Lucy tells him, look, if you help us with this, I will help you get out. And so they put a little plan into place where back in Hollywood, whenever they travel back, they actually go to the prison where Garcia Flynn is held at in the present and like cut him out a little bit of a care package that he uses to escape the prison. And so he manages to get out. now he's going to be helping the team, which I'm not going to lie, I am kind of looking forward to, just because Garcia Flynn was an interesting character that I felt like I could sympathize with, even though he was kind of a bad guy last season. So I'm interested to see him working with the team now and seeing kind of the tension that gets created from it, but also what he can bring to the team. Obviously, I don't think he's going to be going on a whole lot of missions, just because you can only have 3 people in the jump ship. I mean, we see that from what's happened with Gia. So I'll be curious to see if they're going to mainly utilize him from the base. You know, he's going to help them with the whatever Rittenhouse is doing. He's going to have an idea of what they're trying to accomplish. Maybe there'll be some missions where he takes Rufus's. No, yeah, he could take Rufus's spot because he's also a pilot. So maybe there'll be some times that Rufus ends up being held back, and that'll give him and Gia more time to be together, and maybe Rufus can work on some stuff in the base. So I don't know. I'm curious to see where this is going, but now he is a part of the team. The other thing that happens in this episode, this is the episode where Wyatt and Lucy finally hook up, and like I said in the last episode review, I am a little bit disappointed just because it feels like these first 2 episodes where they almost kissed but then they didn't because somebody interrupted them. Now it just feels like that was just a plot for the writers to draw this out longer. And it just kind of feels stupid in that case. What's the point? If they had done this for 5 episodes where they're about to kiss and then all of a sudden somebody comes in and interrupts them, it would have been a funny running joke. Obviously they like each other and they want to hook up, but people just keep interrupting them every time. But now they've actually hooked up, and so now it just feels like not really a running joke because it only happened for 2 episodes. So just a way to stretch out this plot line for some reason. But then Wyatt gets a text message at the end of this episode. He leaves the base. He actually breaks out, causing the alarm to trip. And then he goes to a bar, and there in the bar is Jessica. And now I'm just kind of frustrated with this. Because, I mean, the idea of his wife coming back is an interesting story, don't get me wrong. But now I feel like it's just going to be this whole, ooh, he and Lucy just hooked up and now here comes the wife. She's back in it. Oh no, guys, does that mean Lucy and Wyatt won't be able to get together? And I'm just like, really? We got to do this in the show? We've got to take time away from our main plot to talk about this, and I hate it whenever shows do this because it happens a lot in shows. These 2 characters have had past relationships, but now they're finally hooking up, and then one of the past relationships comes back in and wrecks everything. It's just like, oh no, guys, what's going to happen to them? It's so dumb. It's very dumb. So I'm assuming they'll have a good reason for why she's still alive, how she's here, and I guess we're gonna deal with this for a few episodes where he's probably gonna hide it from Lucy that she is back just because they just hooked up. So why would you mention now that, oh yeah, my dead wife, she's actually alive now and she's back? It's not really something you can bring up naturally in conversation. So he's probably going to hide it from her, and then whenever she does find out that Jessica's back, it's going to be like, oh, why did you hide it from me? I can't trust you anymore. Then they're going to break up, and then by the end of the season, they're going to realize, oh no, we really do love each other, and then they're going to get back together, and I'm going to be like, what was this whole thing for? Because Hollywood has really run out of ideas. So let's just write old ones back into this. But whatever the case, I mean, it's still an enjoyable episode. These 3 episodes have really done a very good job of building up the story for this season and getting me excited for it, because it is interesting to see what Rittenhouse is doing and how they're sort of getting their plan into motion. Sorry. So I'm really enjoying it so far. Can't wait to see whatever they've got next. So I'm excited, and I hope you guys are too. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future timeless reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out.